Okay, today we're going to do some watercolor and we're going to do some cherries. I got 3 cherries here on a 140-pound watercolor paper. And obviously cherries are red, but they have kind of like a little underline of orange and yellow depending on when the sun hits it. I'm going to paint all of this with one brush. I'm going to use my 1/2-inch silver Monza brush. And this is like a glaze brush. Which is really nice and soft to do watercolors. It won't give you a lot of stroke works on your painting. If you're doing it in acrylics, then yes, you want stroke work, but in watercolor, you really don't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first wet my brush, and I'm going to pull a little bit of that orange onto my, see how bright that is? Onto my cherries. And it doesn't have to go everywhere, just enough that you know that there's some orange underneath there. And you're gonna see how nice this is gonna look when we put the red on top. And I'm using the flat area of my brush to do it. See that? And I'm gonna do my one in the back, same thing. Cherries are really nice and round. So I'm gonna put some of that orange on there. Okay, now this little guy here needs to be a little bit rounder, right? So we're gonna do that with the red. Now, I said that they show a little bit of yellow, so I'm gonna take a little bit of my light yellow here. And notice how I'm not spraying my paint yet. I'm just putting the color with some water in there. For this kind of painting, we don't need to spray the paint ahead of time. So this one has a little yellow in here because this one is almost upside down. And we're gonna do the same thing here. And you can see the contrast already with the yellow and the red. And I'm going to take a little bit of that yellow and I'm going to put it right here on the side. Let's see what happens when we put the red paint on it. So now I'm going to take some Naphthol Red Light, which is one of my favorite reds. And I'm going to come here and I'm going to go real slow and I'm going to go all the way around in the back. See that? And I'm maintaining the shape of my cherry. And that orange is giving it a nice glow underneath that. See that? And I'm gonna come right here and join this little guy here with the stem. There's a stem right here, so I'm gonna paint all around it because it's easier than trying to cover it later with some paints. And there's my little cherry. I'm gonna take my burnt sienna and I'm gonna put my stem in just so that I know, oh wait, I'm not gonna do burnt sienna. I'm gonna take that back. I'm gonna do my stems green. So I'm gonna mix a little bit of my burnt sienna with the green. And that's going to be my stem, and I'm going to be using the sharp edge of my flat brush. See that? It's going to go all the way in here. And this little guy here comes from inside here and goes all the way up to the top. Now the top of the stems are like brown, right? They kind of have these little brown areas. Now, I could have made the whole stem brown, but then it would look like one brown stick coming up the top. So I'm just gonna come here and just give myself a nice little round stem. So we'll come back to that when we're done. See how nice this is drying? So now I'm gonna come back and take a little bit more of my bright red. And I'm gonna take my brush flat. Come around it. And by the time I get to the right side, see there's a little yellow showing? I'm gonna leave that there. I think that looks pretty good. Come over here. That looks good. Now we have the back one. The back one is also red. So I'm gonna just hold my brush straight here. This is gonna be the darkest side of that cherry because he's in the back, remember? And things that are in the back are darker. I'm gonna go around and I'm gonna let some of that white show. I think it gives it a little bit more realistic look. Okay, now they have to be a lot more red than this because they are cherries. So I'm gonna come back now with the same color red and I'm gonna put some more of that color on here. See how cool that looks? And I'm actually gonna leave some of that yellow showing right there. Pick up a little bit more of that red and come underneath here and put some more of that color in there. And I'm going, see how big I'm going with my strokes? Because you don't want a lot of that brush stroke to show on your cherries. So far so good. Now I have a color that's called brown matter that is kind of like a darker red. So what I do is I'm gonna come here to the bottom of this guy and make that, see how red that is? So what happens is when you come to the bottom, right, and you make this red, if you leave it the way it is, you're gonna have a mark, right? So I rinse my brush out, and then what I do is I very softly walk it out and have my little red cherry. Come back here and go underneath my stem, right? Because that stem is sticking out. Walk it out. Rinse your brush. Now this guy in the back has to be really dark because it's hitting right underneath there. So I'm gonna come here and make this the dark area in here and walk it out. See that? Rinse my brush, walk that out. Okay, so now, whoops, my little palette went over. This little area here has to be real dark because I want this guy to be on top. So I'm gonna come here and make this darker. That looks good. Okay, so now we have this little separation here. That doesn't look good at all. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a little bit of my brown matter and a little bit of my brown, and I'm gonna come right in here and make that really, really dark. See that? And I'm gonna come underneath my stems and make that dark. Come here and make that dark. Now I'm gonna walk it out. All right. Do the same thing here. Nice. I'm gonna take a little bit of my yellow again, and I'm gonna come right in here in the center and put some of that yellow in. Let me take a little bit more of that brown. Make it darker. There we go. Like that much better. Gotta go back and forth and see. sometimes your hand is a little bit lighter than at other times. So, you know, you're gonna have to play with it a little bit. Now we want those stems to really stand out, so I'm gonna come again with my green, and I'm gonna put some of my green color in there. Nice. Okay. I'm gonna walk this out. Now what happens is that you need some highlights because they kind of all look the same color. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that original red that I used with some of my yellow, and I'm gonna come back here and highlight some of this area here, okay? And lighten that up. See that? This is the yellow color. Lighten it up. Walk it out. Always walk it out. Rinse your brush. Walk it out. See that? Now, take a look back. Oop, a little bit of yellow went in there. And see what needs to be done. We need obviously something to ground it with. So what I do for my bottom is I put water in the bottom, take some of my manganese blue and just drop it in there and let the water run wherever it wants to. See that? Now I'm gonna come back and straighten that out. Wipe a little bit of my blue from underneath here. So I'll cover that up with a little bit of that dark red. Because we want that to be red, right? So what I did is I mixed a little bit of my brown matter with a little bit of my burnt sienna. And now look how that little guy's popping out, right? Walk it out. Brown matter, burnt sienna. Come here and make that really nice and dark. Now this little guy here has to be really dark because this is where the little stem goes in. So I'm gonna take some brown matter and some burnt sienna. I'm gonna come here and make that really dark. Come here, make that really dark. Whoops. Walk it out. Now if you notice, these two little guys look like they're on like one big piece. So in order to separate them, I'm gonna take my brown matter and my burnt sienna, and right here I'm gonna go really dark. See that? And really dark in here. Rinse your brush and then walk it out. Cool. Now I want to highlight that little corner just a tad. So I'm just going to come here with my yellow so that you know that this is a different little cherry than the one behind it, and blend it in there really good, just to give us an idea that this cherry is in front of that one, right? And then almost dry brushing, I'm gonna come here and put a little bit of my light red with my burnt matter and go back and forth to highlight it. And there you have it. You got 3 nice little cherries. Try not to do what I just did and throw water on your paper. So show me what you painted. Keep me posted and let's see how those cherries come out.